I was 19, I'm 29 now. I had a near-death experience where I had an encounter with God. I was in the hospital for what doctors thought was viral meningitis, but it never came back fully conclusive. And for any skeptics out there, which I totally understand, if you think this was a hallucination or something like that, you're correct in that I was on a ton of drugs while I was in the hospital, a lot of narcotics. So I had morphine and Tylenol with codeine through IV. I also was being given Percocet every couple hours. So in this story, I really don't remember anything. There's just total blackness. So there's not really a timeline for you, but there's total blackness. And then all of a sudden I'm in the presence of God, which is the brightest white light you could never even imagine. I knew that if I was seeing this with my human eyes, I would literally be a speck of dust. And I immediately felt just this peace and love that really does not exist, like just this emotion that doesn't exist this side of the spiritual realm at all whatsoever, or on earth. It just doesn't. And so in the presence of God, I immediately know that's what's going on, and I say, God, am I dead? Am I dying? And he says, why do you think that? And I said, I became very frustrated with him, and I said, just tell me, am I dead? And he goes, well, I want you to tell me why you think that, Landon. And I said, well, I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't go to the bathroom. All that I'm doing here is breathing. And he says, I understand why you say that. You can come here if you want to, but if you do, here's what's going to happen. And automatically we're at my funeral. I see my childhood pastor I grew up with walking out of the wing, if you will, up onto the stage. I see on the projection screens pictures of myself from the time I'm a baby up until time of death, if you will, 19 years old. To the right, I can't make out faces or see exactly who it is, but I know that in all of these pews here are friends and family. And then in another instant, we're just on top of my parents, and they're holding each other, and they are bawling, crying, and just filled with grief, as you can imagine. And I became very upset because what's so strange is that I knew in that moment that God was telling me that I needed to go back to earth, that it wasn't my time to come into heaven. And I was upset with that because when I tell you this peace and love that I felt is out of this literal world, it's out of this literal world. And I did not want to leave that. I did not want to leave his presence. I also did not feel a sense of separation really from my family. I remember thinking in my spirit, if they knew what I know, then they wouldn't be sad. And so I said to God in my frustration in that moment, I said, I've seen enough, please take me away from this. And then I'm back in the white presence, if you will. And it's so pure, it's not even white. It's like, it would literally disintegrate you if you saw it like this. And I said, I understand what you're saying, but in 3 days, I either want to be dead or I want to be okay. And what I meant by okay was I just wanted to be in my right mind and in my consciousness, because I couldn't really talk to anybody, didn't know what was going on. Obviously, I wasn't in a coma or anything like that, but I'm like blacked out from these narcotics. And when I tell you, I was in excruciating, like I want to die pain. That's how bad it was. It really was. And he says to me, okay, 3 days, goes black. Next thing I remember is waking up. My granddaddy's looking over me. I look at him and I say, hey, granddaddy. Tears start flowing. He's crying and he goes, oh my gosh, she's back. She's back. And that was my experience of my encounter with the Lord. And I hope that brings comfort to some people. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'm going to be posting another story that is not a near-death experience, but certainly a spiritual experience of when Jesus put his hands on me when I was getting a spinal tap. So I'll post that next.